Hi, I'm Dominica Lumazar.
And I'm Rory Carruthers.
We help entrepreneurs develop their big picture business strategy in order to break through growth plateaus.
We built several marketing agencies from the ground up and have helped our clients earn over $1 billion in revenue.
Now we want to share everything we've learned along the way.
This is the Big Picture Business Podcast.
All right, welcome everyone to the Big Picture Business Podcast. I'm your host, Dominica Lumazar, and we have Rory Carruthers and the talented Christopher Bright. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
Rory, would you like to give an intro to Christopher?
Sure. Yeah, I've known Christopher for many years, and yeah, he's an amazingly talented musician. He's award-winning, and he's he's played in like almost 50 bands.
No way!
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Sure.
Got over 200 students that he's taught how to play music, over 500 song credits, and he's earned over $500,000 as a musician, which is pretty impressive when you consider that most musicians don't make any money ever. So
Totally. That's
Sure.
straight up unheard of. Talk about success over there. And you know, including his students, me too. I'm an official student of Christopher Bright, and we've only had a couple sessions so far, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm excited to continue to learn more. But yeah, wow! How many music credits? Wait, what?
over
I think
500.
I played on, it's getting close to 600 songs
Wow, man,
over the years that I've done different things on.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Truly
it's
amazing.
crazy. Yeah, and we got to tour all over the U.S. together.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So yeah, we're excited. Today we're going to talk about some of your strategies in the music industry, and then also how do those strategies relate to the business world? Because to succeed in music, you also have to have a business mindset. And
Absolutely. That's very, very true. And you have to really look at music or whatever you're doing as a business. And that can be a hard thing, I think, for any of us that are artistic. It can be kind of a little bit difficult, but it's something that you have to put a lot of time and effort into if you want to take it seriously. Oftentimes, if I'm teaching someone or we're working on something and I'm thinking, man, I'd love to sit and practice all day, because there's days where it's hard for me to pick up an instrument, much less get to play and have fun, because I'm busy working on databases or emailing this or doing that, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So it ends up being probably about at least half of what I do.
Wow.
nice, cool. Yeah, well, we'll jump into that, but yeah, can you give us a little bit of background, like how you got into music and
Sure.
how you made it a career?
Strangely enough, I got into music through video games. My love of video games as a child.
Wow.
I really liked all the game music and background songs and things like that. And sometimes I'd like music from a certain level, or I'd like music at the end of the game.
Like what games? What games are we talking here?
Just like a lot of stuff for the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and like Genesis, like the older like 80s and 90s. Like like music from like Final Fantasy was really good.
Yeah.
A lot of Nintendo stuff was really good. It goes on and on. Super Castlevania 4.
Oh, specifically for. All right.
Yes, for the Super Nintendo. It has an amazing soundtrack, and to this day I collect a lot of game soundtracks. In retrospect, I've realized that games were a big part of my becoming interested in music, and also being a child of the 80s, growing up in the 80s. I was very interested in synthesizers and all the things I was seeing on MTV and things like that, of really cool like space age synthesizers and the Fairlights and all those types of things. And these things were incredibly expensive at the time. They were upwards in some cases of $100,000. And I was just interested in electronic type things. I used to take apart boom boxes, do all kinds of things like that. And yeah, just kind of like, that's kind of how I started getting into it. And then as I got a little older, I discovered music a little more seriously, and then got really into it in high school.
Wow.
Yep.
What was the first instrument you learned?
The first instrument I learned was guitar, and I picked that up because it was easy. No, not easy. Easy as in easy to take with me. Easy as in portable. And one of my sister's older boyfriends at the time was playing in a band and was really good. And I'd watch him play and go, "Wow, I'd like to try that." And so I learned that first, and then later I got into drums, and then into keyboards as well.
Well, and you're an author now too. I mean, you and Rory wrote a book together, right?
Yeah, he's a #1 international bestselling author too.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a book. So you want to learn to be a musician, and we've got another book that we're actually working on, and that should be out hopefully not too long. But we're working on it behind the scenes.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's another music-based book.
cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's called The 5-Minute Musician. And I already talked about a little bit about on one of the other podcast episodes about some of the strategies that Christopher and I have utilized for ourselves and for clients and students and stuff like that. So in that episode I mentioned how the idea came from how you told me that you had like a grandma at your church learn to play a beat on the drums within 5 minutes. So to continue that story, maybe you can explain a little bit about that and the concept behind it.
Absolutely. The concept is very simple. Just as someone who's like, I teach drums and guitar and bass and all those kinds of things and piano. But I have to kind of take a step back and say that sometimes music lessons have a certain stigma about them, especially if you get into things like piano, where you run into the teacher with the stick and you mess up and they go whack.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of adults with those stories. And sometimes I teach kids, and I meet their parents, and their parents are saying, "Yeah, I took piano for years and I hated it. I took this for years and I hated it." And so I wanted my approach to teaching music to be about getting some wins right out of the gate, and about trying to make things practical and not just, okay, let's sit down and play scales, right? Because you're dealing with someone like a kid, and they don't want to sit down and play scales. They don't know what a scale is. They don't care. They've seen, whatever music video they've seen, or they've heard a cool song and they want to do that. And so I developed a system with drumming where I can use 2 letters and a number and put them in different orders, and I can teach someone to play beats within like 3 to 5 minutes. You can be playing a drum beat. And that's always how I start with drums now. And
that's amazing.
As a concept, and I've seen this work over and over, but as a concept, I realized, and Rory and I were talking about this together, that little amounts of time, you can do a lot in a little amount of time if what you're doing is focused. Mm-hmm. And you can do a lot in a little amount of time when you add a little amount of time and a little amount of time and a little amount of time, you add them together. And part of that was kind of the genesis of us talking about the 5-minute musician theory, and then talking about making it into a book, was people have an idea of, that maybe they've gotten from movies. You look at the famous montages, like back to the 80s, we look at Rocky, we look at any kind of movie like that where, the hero has to train for his journey. And so they put on in the back, they put on the 80s power ballad in the back, and you see him and he's doing push-ups in a dark basement, and he's like hitting the bag, and he's sweating, and it's super hot, and he's super uncomfortable, and he's being not verbally abused, but he's being he's not being gently helped along by his coach. I'll put it that way. There's like, come on, get in there. He's being really, really pushed to his limit. And then he comes out on the other side, and this takes a couple minutes, but of the movie, but not as a culture, but kind of in the world as a culture, we've taken that montage and made it internal, and we've made it become something where if you want something and you want to work hard for it, it's got to suck. Basically, you have to be down there in the sweaty, gross basement for hours and hours and hours, and you have to bleed for it and sweat for it and hurt for it. And I don't believe it has to be that way.
Remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get notified when each new episode is released. To download the digital episode companions, watch unedited and behind-the-scenes content from this and all our other episodes, get access to exclusive trainings from us and our guests, get direct access to myself and Rory, and to schedule your business critique with us, head on over to bppodcast.com/VIP. The link is also in the description. We'll see you there.